Before I get started, just by show of hands, who got the title? All right, so we're not really off to a very good start. For those that didn't raise their hand, Drake is a really famous rapper in Toronto. And I feel like he's pretty famous here too, but it seems like I'm in the wrong demographic. So let's just move on. So Kelly covered all of this, so I really will skip the first slide and talk about the premise that my whole presentation in the Walmart innovation community is built on, which is this notion of change is constant. And we've heard it time and time again where we're saying that the pace of change has never been this fast, but never again will it be this slow. And in order to keep up with this change, business needs to evolve. And this takes me back to my first class in university, and it was a genetics class. So I'm sitting there and the professor's talking to us about Darwin's theory of evolution and survival of the fittest. And he proceeds to tell us that it's not the strongest or the fastest or the biggest that survive, but it's really the ones that are most adaptable to change. And so businesses, if they're looking to evolve, will need to be able to keep up with this pace of change. And to do that, you need to have this built into your organization. And at the heart of it, all organizations have people. And it's really the people that differentiate your organization. So if your people are resistant to change, and that's the culture in your organization, it's going to get really difficult and challenging to keep up with this change. And this concept of being adaptable transcends even business. So when I immigrated to Canada, I had to adapt to the rules and the less spicy food and the very, 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 very cold temperatures. I don't think I've quite adapted to that yet, so my survival in Canada is still questionable. But this notion of being adaptable transcends the classroom in genetics to really everything that we're doing. So when I joined Walmart in the leadership rotation program, I had the opportunity, I was really lucky to move from department to department every 6 to 8 weeks to learn how the business functioned holistically. And what I noticed were these pockets of innovation, but they were slightly disjointed. To give you some context about Toronto again, we're like the Silicon Valley of Canada. We have world-class universities, we have lots of smart, diverse people, as well as a thriving startup community. And this is all in our backyard. And we weren't tapping into this ecosystem. So I was quite disappointed by this. And this disappointment is what sparked the conversation. And so I booked a meeting with our CIO, Rick Newman, and I said, hey, Rick, I have this idea to bring all these passionate people together and start building a group that focuses on innovation and brings groups together. And so he asked me, he's like, okay, what do you need from me? And I said, well, I want you to be our exec sponsor. He was like, okay, what does that mean? And I was like, I have no idea. I've been here 3 months. I don't know how the organization really functions, and I need you to help me navigate that. And that evening, he connected me with 20 people around the organization that were passionate about innovation. So we all got together in a room, and I pitched them this idea of a group. And that was sort of how the organization was built. We sort of founded the group called the Walmart Innovation Community with a mandate to build and nourish a culture of innovation that allows all associates, no matter what level you're at, and empowers them to participate in innovation, really challenge status quo, and drive change in retail. So we founded this little startup within this massive organization. We even had governing pillars, which are exploration, empowerment, and execution. And that's how we started, from the bottom up. And today, we have launched over 50 lunch and learn sessions where we've brought in startups and industry speakers from around not just Toronto, but the world to come talk about what they're innovating on, how they're doing it differently, and what we can learn from them. We've launched workshops where associates can learn how to code, do UX, how to build a business case, a very basic skill set, but you'd be surprised that it's not very commonly used. So we started doing those. Then last year, we launched a program called Pitch It, which is similar to Dragon's Den or Shark Tank in the US, where internal associates could pitch their ideas to executives and get them funded so that they could implement those ideas. Last year, we launched to our 2,000 corporate associates, and this year, we launched to all of our in-store and corporate associates, which are about 90,000 in total. And we leveraged a Toronto-based company called Soapbox to help us provide them a platform where they could collaborate. And the teams that have made it to the finale, which is this Friday, are a combination of both in-store and corporate associates. And those diverse teams are the ones that are able to get to that level. We also 2 weeks ago launched a innovation summit where we brought in companies focused on AR, VR, and AI from around the world so that they could showcase their innovation to our leadership team and just other associates within the company. And we had to make sure that there was something for everyone. So it didn't matter if you worked in HR or in logistics, there was something tailored for you. And we had speaker series as well as some workshops at that point in time. Today, we've grown organically to over 500 members in 7 different countries, and we're continuing to grow. We also run pilots with startups, and we do this in conjunction with the business. Once the pilots are successful, we sort of transition this over to the business. I forgot to mention, this is in addition to our day-to-day job. So this is a volunteer group. We're very passionate about innovation and driving change in retail. So we do this over and above our day-to-day jobs. So this journey hasn't all been rainbows and butterflies as much as we would like it to be. It's been a long journey. It's been about 2 years. And through that journey, we've learned a lot of different lessons. We've made a lot of mistakes. And so we've learned from that. And so today, what I want to share with you is the top 3. If I were to share all my lessons, we would be here for a really long time. So the first one was a lesson that I learned from this guy named Dave. And when I joined Walmart and started sort of pitching in different executive meetings, I thought I had a pretty good batting average. I did door-to-door sales, so I was like selling cable, internet, and phone service door-to-door, so I thought I had an edge. And then I met Dave. And Dave is this like charismatic guy, funny, really smart, and whenever he walked into the room, everyone would smile and give him whatever he wanted, and I felt like I was being interrogated. And so I decided to study him. I was like, okay, what is he doing that is so special? How is he presenting his slides? How is he cracking his jokes? How is he reading the audience? And so I started observing, and I couldn't figure it out. And so one day, Dave and I were working on a project together late at night, and I thought I'd pop the question then. And so I asked him, I was like, hey, Dave, what's your secret? Why is it that when you walk into a room, you kind of get what you want? And he gave me this like MBA answer, well, it's really how I tell the story, and this is how my data is structured, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, come on, Dave, it's just you and me here. Cut the bull. Like, what is it? I know that's not the case. I've been studying you, as creepy as that sounds. And so he leans in and he whispers, Nemawashi. And I'm like, what? Like, is that English? He's like, no. Nemawashi is a Japanese term that means laying the roots. I was like, okay. He's like, well, while you've been working hard on your laptop, eating lunch at your desk, and you think I'm kind of just like slacking away, going out for lunch here and there, Dave's actually been laying the roots for his next big idea. He's going and having these conversations with the different people that are going to be decision makers and getting their buy-in early. He's getting all their feedback early before getting into the room. And so he is working smarter, not harder. And that was a really important lesson. So as a leader, if you're looking around your team and you're seeing a couple of them playing ping pong, let them do that, because you don't know if they're laying the roots for their next big tree. And this is basically the business case for your next Beer O'Clock Friday. The next lesson was when I took over the tech implementation team. We run a project management team. No matter how much you plan, things are bound to change and not go according to plan. So one of the first fires that we had to put out was one of our project managers was upgrading our whole telephone system. And part of that change required that the voicemail system be reset. Now we have 2,000 corporate associates. You could send them all like personalized emails with different passwords. But our project manager found a way to do this effectively, very quickly, with one mass email that said, all voicemails have been reset. Here is the generic password. Go. And the security team had a panic attack. People were coming up to us being like, oh my God, what did you do? The CEO's voicemail can be accessed. And we're like, so my first reaction was like, burst out laughing. Clearly not the reaction that some of these people were expecting. And my team member, the project manager, let's call him Jeff. Jeff is like really upset, looks panicked a little bit. And I go over to Jeff and I'm like, hey Jeff, don't worry about it. Like, good on you for trying to find efficiencies in our system. And let's just send another email out. We'll do it for like the execs. We'll give them individual passwords and do that manually, but it's not a big deal. And in that moment, something changed. If you provide air cover for your teams as a leader, they will be more open to taking risks. They are going to make mistakes, and you have to be okay with that and encourage that. If your team's not making mistakes, you should be really worried, because they're not doing things differently. They're not pushing the boundaries as much as they could. So this is a really important lesson. And it's not just providing them the air cover, but you also want to encourage them to take risks and try things differently. This today has manifested for us in millions of dollars in savings, and we're also changing global processes through this. I pressed the button too fast, so the suspense is not there anymore. Anyway, the third point is this notion of humility. What really differentiates Walmart is that humility is built into our culture. It doesn't matter who you are in the company, the CEO or an in-store associate, everyone is really humble. And what that means is people are open to listening to new ideas. And I'll give you a story. In Canada, it's really large. We're the second largest country after Russia. And so that poses some logistical challenges. But also, the West Coast and the East Coast are very different. And Vancouver, which is similar to Seattle here, we were trying to win in that market and decided to partner with a logistics last mile delivery startup called Spud. And they focus on urban delivery, really focused on organic, healthy living, as well as no waste. And so when we partnered and there was a press release issued, someone asked our VP of Omnichannel, Daryl, and said, hey Daryl, like, what is it that Spud or FoodX is getting from this deal? Like, were they going to die without you? Like, why are you investing in them? And Daryl said, guys, we're not too big, we're not too perfect. They've mastered this in their market, and this is a strategic partnership for us. We want to learn from them. And that just kind of goes to show how you need to be humble, listen to new ideas. They can come from anywhere, from your associates, from outside, and it's important to not think that you're the smartest person in the room and really stay humble. So in short, what you need to do is encourage your team to go out and be social, protect them when they make mistakes, encourage them to do that, and stay humble. I will take questions now. I walked through that really fast. Yes?
Thank you. Wonderful. Are all these, when you bring in the innovation kind of summit, where you have the meetings, are they all done up in Canada or Toronto? Do you ever go down to Bentonville and do that? Or how do you split that up? Where do you hold these?
So the Walmart Innovation Community was founded in Canada. So a lot of our initiatives are first done in Canada, and then we roll them out into the different markets. The LATAM countries, so Chile, Mexico, Argentina, Costa Rica, they all formed an alliance, and they've built a Walmart Innovation Community there and are starting to do lunch and learns because they have a language barrier, not a time zone barrier. So they've got together and have started hosting Spanish lunch and learn sessions. So they're kind of looking to us right now for guidance. This is the first group that's kind of set up their own innovation community, and we're encouraging all the different markets to do that. China is up next, and they're looking to do Pitch It, which is our Dragon's Den style event. So we're testing different things, but we're giving them the freedom to go try what they want to do. Like I said, all of this is passion driven. We do it because we're excited about it. We want to do this, whether we're getting paid for it or not. And I think giving everyone that freedom to follow their passion is important, however they want to do it.
Great. Oh, here, let me get you the microphone. There you go.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Thinking back to when you were starting your innovation community, I know you had your CIO as your initial VP sponsor. Can you tell me any more about how you sort of built alignment among broader leadership? Because I'm guessing to get those ideas, the more they came through to be supported, it goes outside of whatever one VP's sort of area of responsibility is.
Right. So this group was not started in a specific business area. It was just a grassroots cross-functional group that came together. So there's no reporting relationship. We don't answer to anyone really. If we want to run events, we will pitch to our executive committee and say, hey, we want to run this program. And whether we want funding or something else, they'll say yes or no. But Rick was really instrumental in getting that buy-in from different leaders as well as protecting us from them. And I think what differentiates us and makes us different from what other companies are doing in their innovation teams is that we have low exec involvement, and we want to keep it that way. We've grown bottoms up, and we're allowing people to follow their passion. And this sounds a little bit fluffy, but I'll give you an example of one of the team members. He's an aspiring filmmaker, so he does all the videography for our group. Someone else is a graphic designer as a hobby, not as their day-to-day, and you have that outlet. In terms of getting executive buy-in, we just kind of grew organically. And because so many different people in the organization started attending these sessions and talking about it, the execs kind of they wanted to support us because their teams were getting value from it. They'd say, hey, I went to this influencing others workshop and it was great. Like, I'd love to bring that company back in and do something with our team. And then the exec would hear about it and say, yeah, let's give us the connection. We'll run something after. So now instead of us going and pitching to execs saying, hey, we want to do this, a lot of them are coming to us saying, I'd like my team to have a session on digital marketing. Can you set something up? So we're partnering with Coke. They're doing some really neat things in that space, and they're coming in 2 weeks to run a digital marketing workshop, which is open to everyone to attend, and we broadcast these globally.
Questions?
So when you bring all these people from the different business areas or different areas come together, and everybody has all these ideas. What methodologies or methods that you use to decide what you want to focus on? How did you know what to focus on and what to implement? What type of companies to bring in? How did you do that?
Initially, it was all based on connections, who we knew who wanted to come from the startup world. So Jordan and Nudge was actually one of the companies that we brought in for a lunch and learn session. And if you haven't had a chance to stop by their booth, they provide communication to frontline associates. So what we did was we brought in our operations communications team into the room, as well as some other folks from ops to come in and listen to the pitch. And it's not really a pitch. It's more, this is what we do, and here are some lessons that we've learned. And then we facilitate that conversation with the business as the business chooses to move forward or not. The things that the companies that we're passionate about or really think that they're solving a problem and we can get executive sponsorship for, we will push those hard. And we've sort of developed a process where we can take companies from outside of the company into Walmart in less than 9 weeks. And if you think about startups, they cannot wait through long, like 2-year legal cycles or security reviews, because like 6 months is like life, an eternity in startup years. And so 9 weeks is what we've managed to do it in, and we're continuing to get better and faster. And getting the right people in the room early on is really important.
Because your organization is voluntary and it's grassroots, and you don't have dedicated resources, do you find that you lose engagement, or people, their day-to-day, their actual jobs take precedence? And how do you find that balance? Because, you have dedicated teams to do these things, and they get lost in the weeds, of course, because now it's their job and they're not in it anymore. They don't experience that. So how do you keep your employees engaged and coming to these voluntary type sessions?
That is such a great question, because that's one of the lessons that I learned recently. When I first started, I was really passionate. I still am really passionate about this topic. And so I was like, passionate people will move mountains. So let's just find passionate people. So I found a bunch of passionate people. Then I realized that there is an element of capability that's required. So then I went out and I looked for passionate and capable people. And I was like, okay, that's the winning mix. It's not. I learned that you need to have passionate people, you need to have capable people, and then you need to have committed people, because that business priority always comes first. And we want that to be the case. So we have a rule that we've set early on. Everyone that comes into the group, we've set that expectation that if you are not killing it at your day-to-day job, you cannot be here. So you need to be doing really well in your job, because then no one will question what you're doing. So some of us, we've been doing this for a while. We call them coaches or bosses, are very supportive because we're doing a good job. Our teams know that we participate in this. It's important to us. So we have that support. But then, after I found passionate, capable, committed people, I realized that's not the winning recipe either. You need to have diversity. And when I started looking for this like 3 characteristic mix, I went to the leadership program and I said, let HR do all the work for me. They're finding like the entrepreneurial mindset person. It's like not exclusive, but it's a very sought after program. So getting in, they've already vetted that this person is the right person. And so I just started recruiting them and said, hey, like we've started this group, do you want to join? And then what I realized is we had so many of them that when they all had like business priorities, and work is cyclical, and half the group would go, and then like productivity on our team would decrease considerably. So that's the 4th characteristic, is diversity. So I'm going to try that, and then if I fail at that, then I'll come back and I'll let you know what like the 5th characteristic.
Oh, there we go. Thanks for talking through all this. I helped lead a similar sort of movement, if you will, at another large company. So a lot of what you said really, really resonates. I'm curious how you guys think about metrics and sort of ROI for some of the projects or sort of different things that you guys have rolled out, or if that hasn't really come up yet, or what you've sort of been thinking about.
So when we look at metrics, we look at them separately. So when I say separately, the Walmart Innovation Community, we have a core team, champion group, and then just members. So the core team, we have KPIs, how many members we have, plus what's the engagement, how many sessions are we running, what is the quality feedback that we're getting after we run the sessions. So that's kind of engagement, number of members, how far we're getting. And then we have different campaigns and launch different things to hit those metrics. And then when we're running pilots, then we'll have metrics specific to the pilot. So currently we're working with a company called Shift. Really simple solution. You just swap shifts. Magical. But the impact that it has is that our management is not spending hours on finding someone to fill a shift if you're sick or whatever that might be. And so that company, the experiment that we're running, has specific metrics that we want to hit for us to say, okay, this makes sense for us to build a business case, et cetera. So the traditional way in large companies of getting to that and implement it in every store scenario is that you'd build a business case and then you'd get approval and funding and then you'd go and do it. We use a different approach. We just run experiments, as many as we can with the business, and say, okay, is this valuable to you? At what point is it valuable to you? We'll work with you to set up the experiment, and then if it's successful, you take it on from there. Because like I said, we're a volunteer group. We cannot do it all. Plus, having the business at the table early on is so important because at the end of it, they're going to own that solution and see value in it.
All right. Thank you so much, Fareena. Appreciate it.
you.
Big round of applause.